least, we have some practice footage. Nate Goetz over on Twitter, for those of you that may or may not follow him, he gets some practice footage every so often, and he shares it with the masses. I reached out to him and let him know I was going to be putting it on here, and he was good with it. So wanted to show you guys some of the practice footage that he has shared with everyone to see over on Twitter. Obviously, just a little bit of a caveat before we get into the footage and kind of start talking about what all we see. A couple of things. One, you're not going to see Drew Fielder on the floor. You'll see him on the baseline in some shots and stuff. I think it's just when the things were recorded, he wasn't one of the guys on the floor. It doesn't look like he's hurt or anything. Jamarian Davis-Fleming, very similar. He's not really in any of these shots. You'll see him around the outside. Collins Onjiaka actually is in one of the clips. He does a putback dunk, but most of the shots of number 34 that you're going to see are Brandon Garrison. Both guys are wearing number 34, so the putback dunk is Onjiaka. All the other 34s are Brandon Garrison. Number 4 is going to be Terrace Bowie. Number 23 is Jackson Richardson. Number 6 is London Jemison. Amari Allen you should recognize. And then the last one that you may or may not recognize is number 10. That's Keaton Bristow. The reason you may not recognize him is he cut his hair. He has a completely different hairdo than he did last season. So if you're looking for the dreads, you're not going to see him. So much shorter hairstyle. So going to play it now. Want to talk through some of the things that I'm seeing because I think there's a lot of really good stuff. Just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up, obviously, practice footage is practice footage. We don't want to take too much out of it. You can crown guys as the champion in practice, but it doesn't matter till it comes to game time. But obviously, it's good to see what the guys are working on, what's able to be accomplished, because confidence is built in the gym in the summer. So let's see what we got. So the first thing, you get your windmill dunk from Jackson Richardson. He's a guy who is going to be, just phenomenal all season. Terrace Bowie with the dunk, Amari Allen with the dunk. Obviously, you're seeing a pretty big theme of the dunks. I think that's going to be a big theme this season. I think Alabama will dunk the ball way more than we have previously. Amari Allen with a three-point shot. That three-point shot by Jackson Richardson that he just took is a big one for me. Richardson was not seen as a shooter coming out. His shot was pretty rough, but the fact that he was stroking it from deep and confident, love to see that. Obviously, London Jemison keeping the shot up. You saw Brandon Garrison make one just a second ago. You get the hustle play by Garrison leading to the three-pointer by Amari. Garrison in the corner, again, another massive three. I think that he's going to be really good. There's Collins with that putback, as we mentioned. I think that physicality is something that he's going to be good. That was Keaton that just passed over to Amari Allen, so obviously phenomenal to see there. London, again, quick release, solid step, sidestep. Jackson Richardson's somebody that I think the ball's just going to find, both from a rebounding perspective and from a cutting perspective. I think he does a really good job. And I think that Jackson Richardson, again, I think his shot's much better than I was giving it credit for coming out. I think that the shot looks really, really good. There's Keaton Bristow with a nice shot. Obviously, we didn't see a ton of that last season out of him, but if he can get the three-point shot falling, love to see that. Amari with a long-range one. And then you got Jackson Richardson with another one. So Jackson hits 3 across these clips. You have the putback with Keaton Bristow to finish it out. You have quite a few different clips there. Obviously, Jackson Richardson hits a couple of threes. Brandon Garrison hits a couple of threes. Amari Allen does what Amari Allen does, hitting threes, driving to the lane. Really important to notice, you saw dunks, I think, from like 4 or 5 different guys. You saw Terrace Bowie. You saw Jackson Richardson, Collins, Amari, all with some solid dunks. Keaton Bristow with a dunk. I think that the athleticism overall for the team this next season is going to be higher, and it's also how they play with that athleticism. I think both Terrace Bowie, Jackson Richardson, Amari are all guys that like to dunk in game. Obviously, it's a huge piece of what Jackson Richardson is and does, just that boost of athleticism, that boost of energy. I think that's going to be, a big part of what Alabama does next season. I would expect more alley-oops. I would expect more dunks, more open, whether it be, open dunks or, just set play type dunks. I think that is going to be a much larger part of the offense this season than it was last. So that is something worth mentioning, and you're already seeing it some in practice footage. Again, you can't exactly say like, oh, this guy's elite because of practice footage, but it does give you a little bit of an idea of what they're capable of, and something that you might see in game. And I think that that is something. Obviously, we know the 3-pointers, being able to know some of the guys are able to knock them down is huge. Obviously, got to see what they're doing in game. Love to see the confident stroke from Brandon Garrison. I thought Keaton Bristow's shot in that shot looked better than it did at all last season. I thought it just was a little bit more fluid. We'll be curious to see if that translates to the game. If it does, I think that's huge news. Jackson Richardson as well. He's a guy who I think in EYBL was only like sub 20% from three. He was much more of a rebound, put back dunk, alley oop, dunk, layup kind of guy. That's really what he was. He was not a 3-point marksman in EYBL, but obviously the 3-point shot looked confident. I saw 3 solid threes from him in those clips, and I think that's something that's worth mentioning, right? Jackson Richardson was a guy who I think he feels like he has a little bit to prove. Because of not being that shooter and maybe coming in a Nate Oates system. And it's like, you don't want to be the guy that doesn't have the green light. And I think that he's worked on his shot and it's clearly showing. He's somebody that I think that if he gets a 3-point shot, the sky's the limit for him because the defense, athleticism, rebounding is all phenomenal and has been, his whole kind of high school career. So I really think that if he adds that 3-point shot and adds an additional element to his game, it's going to be somebody that's really, really hard to stop and also really hard to keep off the floor. I think Alabama's going to have a tough time keeping him off the floor if he's able to add that. And I'm super excited with what Alabama has in Jackson Richardson.